Thank you for that, Professor. Just want to bring in Timmy at this point, because Timmy, education is something that Lead Africa International has its focus on, and you've mentioned and you've done projects on this and initiatives. Just want to bring you in here to get your sense to the story.
Thank you very much, Faith. Thank you very much, all the speakers we've been able to have so far, especially the keynote speakers as well. I think education is key for us as an organization as well. And there are many shades when we talk about education in the context of Africa. And we know a lot has also happened to our educational system. So I think looking into our situation and having how we intend to design the kind of education that works for us is very key. For example, where I grew up, there's a language that is used in teaching, okay? And I'm not sure that so many people can even speak that language just before the Western education came in to Africa. So again, education is very, very important, and it can be used, or it can be seen as a tool as well for either development or otherwise. I just wanted to say that tomorrow, I think we have a speaker that she will be elaborating more on education as a tool and what we need to look at. So I just want to point that one quickly, that when we talk about education, I think it's a structural thing, and we still have to develop as people of Africa what exactly worked for us, how, because these things were happening just before the colonial invaders happened. So I just want to quickly drop that. And Faith, if you don't mind, there are hands that are raised up, and there's also a question. I don't know if Tafa is looking into that. Someone disagree with Dr. Kenny on some point. So if we can just also take that, I think it would be great. And Your Excellency, thank you for waiting this long. We really appreciate your time, Ma. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Timmy. Tech team, can we take a question from the hand that is raised?
I think we have Nelson. Are you there?
Well, let's bring in Tafa, because she's been gathering the questions as well, while we wait for the mic to be open to Nelson or another participant.
Hello?
So the question that Timmy refers to came from a participant who was challenging Dr. Kenny around the assumptions and the generalizations of Africa. The education and development system being discussed has also been criticized. The ideas of development are not our own. The education system is also inherited from our colonial path. So I think it's just thinking around, have we even customized and really created our own version of education development? And for these things that we are talking about, what is our version of what could actually work for us?
Yes, hello. Here is Joy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Joy, we can hear you.
Oh, thanks. Hi. This is Joy. My name, as I said, Joy Tens, based in Germany, founder of Africa Women in Europe and also Africa Women in Trade. So my this question is based in two ways. One of them is a diaspora concept that is very much ignored in the continent, although we are the biggest remittance, as you all know. And we should be partnering with a lot of organizations there. We find it very difficult. Like I ended up founding my own because it was so difficult to partner with the organization on the ground, which is now the Africa Women in Trade. But what I did, I still didn't reinvent the wheel. I still work with the women. How are you working with the African diaspora? And then the other question is traceability. The speaker just mentioned that Africa, we are not in the picture. Yes, we are in the picture, but we are represented by companies who don't represent us, the products. Take an example of coffee. Coffee is the biggest producer of coffee in Germany. They don't produce coffee. Are they showing the traceability of this product that it comes from Africa? So many people don't know where this coffee comes from. So let's give credit where it belongs. We are in the market, but we are not represented well. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Joy. I know there are questions, but I'd just like to have those, the two that we've had right now, and Kenny, if you could comment on the two from, or one of, especially the first part, from your perspective, and I'd like to take then two others and bring the engineer for a comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Faith. Well, I want to agree with your perspective, agree with the things you've said, but having said that, I think your opinion is valid and it's okay. What happens in Africa differs from countries to countries. And we are not generalizing, and we're not saying this is the real situation in all African countries. In some places, we have huge development and advancement and growth, development, enlightenment, and the rest of those things. In some places, we don't have those kind of scenarios. So the situations differs in different places and countries. But I think that it's also the problem of leadership. It has to spread wide to every part of Africa. Our countries, our communities, our towns must be enlightened. I mean, to be candid with you, you go to some locations and places, you can't even smell anything like sound education. And you can imagine the amount of money that is spent on different things by our leadership, by the government. These are the things which they should do. They should also be interested in how they can change the narratives that we have concerning some location in Africa today. I mean, the country where I live and I come from, I mean, there's a huge development in most places. But in some other places, when you go to those places, you will be embarrassed and be shocked with the level of enlightenment and education and development that you find there. The government does pay lip service to those things and nothing is done about them. Some locations are exposed and enlightened, some are not. So that's what I can say to that. Your opinion is valid, but at the same time, the scenarios, the situation in different places is different. I mean, there's a need to pay attention to the curriculum of our schools. Public schools in some of our locations and places is not the same like we have in Western worlds. I mean, your opinion about how the countries came and impact on our democracy is valid. What we preach was never a solution to us, or what was given to us was never a solution to us. I think that is still something we can debate and talk about. The ideas and what is sold to us in Africa needs to be looked into and see if there are solutions that can work for us in Africa. That's what I can say about that observation. I don't know if I've responded to the second one.
Thank you. The second one was about the diaspora, which has been tackled by the ambassador and which was tackled by Martha earlier. Let's, Joy, if we could just, we'll combine that, perhaps we'll get a comment or two from the engineer as well. I'd just like to take the two more questions from the audience before I bring in Oguchukwu to a comment on some of the things that have been said so far. Is it possible to have Nelson speaking or Patanucha? Could you unmute their mics, please?
You're still there?
Are you still there, Nelson or Pat?
Yeah, I'm here, but I have quite a couple of noisy background
Okay.
So I needed to reposition myself, and I was biking. Can you put
we can hear
the
you.
conversation
If you
update
could
me a bit?
quickly, very shortly ask your question.
I have not been following the conversation, so I'm a bit lost. I had to write away from a noisy background, and I missed a couple of the conversations. So I'm just...
Okay, no problem, Nelson. All right, is Pat there? Pat, are you ready with your question?
Yeah, Pat is here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Pat. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Could you go ahead and ask your question very shortly?
Yes, I'm so much delighted to be in this forum, in this conversation. I've been following so keenly with the discussion so far, and especially on education. From the part of the country which I come from, people have been criticizing on educational curriculum. But there are two things that are so significant, and we want to, differentiate in this kind of conversation. One is the curriculum, and one is the funding of the infrastructure, providing infrastructure for the education. I found out that, to me, the education we have in Africa, which is introduced to us from the other countries, and as of now, it's still those kind of education that practicing. But there's a different approach. Here in our country, we have 4 infrastructures, providing infrastructures for the education, and also the approach we have given to education is not worth it. So there should be an improvement in providing good infrastructures to our educational system, so that we can be able to tap, the qualities, the things that are virtual in education, the things that are good in education.
Thank you for that, Pat. Engineer Oguchukwu, could we have your comments about this? I know you're passionate about this topic as well.
All right, thank you so much, Faith. For me, just like the Prof said, the level of investment that governments in Africa make determines or defines the value they place on education. I mean, it said that we need to walk the talk. Now, there's a lot of talk about education and all that in Africa, but basically there's no real support for all of those talks. For example, I will just take one country in Africa as an example. If you look at the national budget, yearly annual budget for countries in Africa, primarily, like I said, I'm just going to use one country to give an example. It's always single-digit percentage of the total annual budget. The highest that country has come up to in terms of education budget was 7.5% of the total budget. I mean, if you so much value education as Africa, as countries in Africa, as leaders in Africa, how come they're not providing adequate finances for education in the country's annual budget? I'm not talking about private sector now, but from the national budgets. So it just shows that there is actually a lack of, implementing what they say. I mean, I just want to read out a few things for us here now. I mean, this country for the past, looking at basically for 5 years budgets, you find out that each of the years, the highest they've come up basically is 7.5%. So how do you expect educational infrastructure to be developed? How do you expect the lecturers or teachers to be paid well? How do you expect the education environment to be conducive for learning? Because that's what Dr. Kenny alluded in some of his talks, that you go to certain areas,
you get so sad about how so terrible the education environment is in those areas. So the investments from the national treasury is critical to how we can improve our education in Africa. United Nations talks about the fact that you need to allocate anything from 10% and above when it comes to education in terms of national budget. But most countries in Africa do not even meet up to 10%. So it's a major issue. So we cannot improve in education in Africa if the right resources are not provided, for educational development and growth in a sustainable manner, basically. That's just the comment I want to make with regards to education. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. I think it's been an agreement across board that we need to increase the investment. We need to find ways of contextualizing the program, the curriculum, in a way that responds to the challenges and the needs on the ground. And we need to provide the infrastructure for its delivery. I'd just now like to go to performance, to the African vibes, to take a breather before we come in with presentations from the academy. There was questions about the youth and how we involve them and the focus that we should focus. We should put on the youth. This also ties to the question of education, building entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship skills in Africa and coming together. I see Sona, they are ready with her band. Sona. Okay, welcome. Let's listen to some of our vibes to take us back to our roots and then come back and refocus on this discussion.